Welcome back to Something in the Wilderness, where I discuss all of Andrew McMahon's music from throughout his career, one song per episode. My name's Steve, and I appreciate you tuning in. I'm a very nostalgic person, and I've been this way for a long time, pretty much as long as I can remember. And I'm mostly referring to personal nostalgia, not in the form we usually talk about that word, such as mass media, like TV shows, movies, and music, but some of that's relevant here too, I suppose. I love this idea of looking back to where I came from and reevaluating who I am today, which is, mostly a result of my experiences. I enjoy reminiscing with friends and family about our shared past, thinking and talking about whom I don't know anymore, wondering if they've led similar paths or went off in different directions, catching up with people when I can, and of course, looking through old pictures and videos of these experiences and people. In recent years, I've been on more of a nostalgia kick than more so than previously even. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with this pandemic. I'm sure many of us have spent time reconnecting with people from our recent or even distant past, reminiscing on times long gone, trying to find that connection again, combing through old photos, discovering video footage of us in the past. I've done a lot of this lately. I've taken on several personal projects in the past 2 years since the pandemic began that relate to all of this. And most recently, I organized and attended a family reunion mostly with people I hadn't seen in anywhere between 5 and 15 years. But back to these projects, I built out my family tree on Ancestry.com, and this helped me get a much better handle on who I'm related to and relearning relatives' names that I hadn't felt connected to in years, and even discovering new relatives I didn't know I had. I've also been working hard on importing all of our old videotapes for my family, not only onto the hard drive, but uploading them all onto YouTube so everyone that wants to has access to them. And lastly, I've been scanning in all my photographs from over the years onto our hard drive. Each of these projects has allowed me to reflect back about my family and friends and reevaluate what's important in my life now. And that brings me back around to the song I want to talk about today. In the Wilderness era especially, much of Andrew's songwriting has turned toward his past to help him make sense of his present. There are few songs in the catalog in which it's more apparent than this one. It's not only the lyrics, and it's not only the sound of the song, but it's the feeling we get when we listen to it. It's one of those interesting songs that makes me feel nostalgic, even though I first heard it as an adult. This song is aptly titled Black and White Movies. The band is Andrew McMahon and the Wilderness. The song is track 6 from the self-titled Andrew McMahon and the Wilderness album, released on October 14th, 2014. The album was produced by James Flanagan, Mike Viola, and Andrew McMahon himself. After some solo writing sessions in Topanga Canyon in the summer of 2013, where Andrew would write songs on the piano for 10 hours a day during the week, and then spend the weekends with Kelly, the self-titled album was recorded in late 2013 and early 2014 in Los Angeles. It's no surprise to me that Mike Viola wrote Black and White Movies with Andrew. If you look through the liner notes, you'll find that he also co-wrote other songs in this album that have a similar theme and vibe, some of which I've discussed on the show already, such as Hulls and High Dive, but also others that we haven't even covered yet, like Driving Through a Dream and Maps for the Getaway. And if you think about all these songs' theme, I believe they all have something in common. In addition to Andrew and Mike Viola writing the song, they also produced it along with James Flanagan. Most of this album was basically a collaboration between these three guys. Now, if you've listened to the Hulls episode from way back in the fall of 2020, you may remember Mike Viola's name. Since it's been a while, I'll give a much more brief review of his career here. He's written songs for several modern films, one of which was nominated for an Academy Award. He's also collaborated with several contemporary musicians of Andrew's, such as Panic at the Disco, Matt Nathanson, New Politics, and even Butch Walker. Mike Viola also played guitars and bass on this track, while Andrew played keyboards and piano. James Flanagan did the programming. The interesting thing about these notes is that it's the only song on the entire album that has credits for any guitar. In fact, there were times during the recording of this album that they intentionally removed the guitar to make the other instruments pop out more. According to Setlist FM, this song's only been played live 25 times total. The most recent time was at an Andrew solo show in the fall of 2020, which I'll link in the show notes for you. Thankfully, they did capture his entire performance at the Ocean Institute at Dana Point, California, which included this rare gem. I won't complain about the audio quality here since it's surprising that the organization even thought to post it on YouTube, so I appreciate that. It was the first time it had been performed in over 4 years, though, and before that, it was only played twice in 2016, and prior to those 2 times, the other 22 times were all during the self-titled album tour between the end of 2014 and into early 2015. I've personally never seen this one perform live outside of seeing that YouTube video. The only live Andrew show I saw during the self-titled album tour was a festival performance, so he only played 10 songs. But surprisingly, he played a different deep cut from the first Wilderness album that time, and I'll talk about that one on a different day. What I'm about to say is odd and unexpected because it's a really heartfelt and beautiful song. But I don't feel like I'm missing anything not seeing this one live. Maybe I could be convinced if it happened, maybe a surprise this summer at one of the Ohio shows on the tour. But of all the Andrew songs I want to see perform live that I've never seen before, this one doesn't top the list. I think it would be cool for the novelty of hearing a deep cut that I've never heard before, but I don't think it would be as exciting as some of the others. I think this song's a great studio cut. It's one I look forward to as I'm listening to the album, but I've never felt myself wondering when and if he'll play it. But maybe he'll surprise us someday with it. During that Ocean Institute solo performance I mentioned earlier, Andrew mentioned that most of the self-titled album was written from a perspective of coming back to Dana Point after several years of living in other places and trying to reconnect with this place that he calls home. According to Wikipedia, Black and White Movies was one of the earliest songs that Andrew wrote with Mike Viola in his garage. He saw it as an answer to the work he had done with Jack's Mannequin. Everything in Transit was all about summer in California, whereas Black and White Movies was after the tourists left and the beach houses got shut down. On this track, Andrew's asking someone he used to know questions, such as, are you home tonight? And are you laying in bed watching black and white movies? And do you ever rewind to the summer you knew me? All questions that point to someone from his past, someone he hasn't talked to in a while, someone he shares some special memories with and would like to talk to again. As I was looking for the studio version of this song on YouTube, I happened to look at the first few comments, and I love that someone commented, quote, if you could associate nostalgia with a sound, this song is what you would hear. And I couldn't agree with that more, and I said as much earlier, but it's neat to hear that there are other fans out there that feel the same way hearing this music that I do. This song has a total 80s pop rock vibe from the opening keyboard melody through that piano that sounds so much like many of the radio hits of that era, and that electronic beat. Now, it took me a while to realize that there's an electronic beat throughout almost the entire song. Some of it does sound like natural drums at times, but you can tell most of it's programmed. But I think that help gives it that 80s pop vibe. I actually don't hear any guitar on this song at all, which is weird because it's supposed to be the only song on the entire album that has it. I know it exists because it's in the liner notes. Mike Viola played guitar. I'm just having trouble pulling it out. But you know, the reality is that I don't need to notice every single instrument individually to enjoy the whole, just like most pop music. But speaking of instruments, when I read up on this song, I read comments from others about a flute in there. And I tell you what, I would have never picked that out on my own. But once I noticed it, I can't not notice it now. It comes in during the verses especially, and it kind of contradicts the primary piano melody. I can't think of a better way to put that right now, but it's cool to me that these choices are made to make a sound pop out like that in the studio. After multiple listens to this song in a row, another sound I heard that I hadn't before is the backing vocals in the choruses. They almost sound like a choir. It's very pretty. The flute and the backing vocals are just two of those small details that I hadn't noticed in 8 years of listening to this track, but they would definitely be missed if they weren't there. All the pieces I've named, though, really help give this song depth. So let's talk lyrics. When I hear the lyrics to this song, I think of Andrew imagining talking to someone from his past, reflecting on the memories they have together. I don't know that they're actually having the conversation, but I get the impression that he wishes they could have the conversation. But first, he sets the scene in the first verse. As the summer came and left with the rain pushing shadows down the road, in this old beach town, when the sun goes down, all the gray turns into gold. Now, in order to tell a good story, your audience needs to be able to visualize it. These 4 lines are really rich with details, so you get the imagery. Summer, rain, shadows down the road, beach town, sun goes down, gray, gold. Haven't we talked about colors before in this show recently? Yes, we have. It's one of Andrew's go-tos, as we know. While the first 4 lines were the overhead view of the entire scene, we zoom in for more detail in the second half of the verse. Got no plans, just a feeling. I'm no architect at all. There's a fan on the ceiling and a telephone that you should call. He's no architect, he's an artist. He isn't acting on plans, he's acting on a feeling. And he's hoping this person will pick up the phone and call him. But he can't will that to become reality. He can only wish for it. Then we get a chorus. Andrew imagining what this person is doing, hoping that they're thinking about him like he's thinking about them. It's easy for us all to feel this way, I think. We hope that we're as important to someone else as they are to us, even if we haven't seen each other in years. We wonder if they remember us fondly as we remember them. Are you home tonight? Are you laying in bed watching black and white movies? All alone tonight? Do you ever rewind to the summer you knew me? I hear the black and white movies lines as metaphors for reliving old memories in your head. Maybe not literally watching old home videos or watching old black and white Hollywood movies from so many years ago, but just laying in bed, rewinding inside of our brains to previous memories. The second verse recalls specific detailed memories, probably only ones that Andrew would have with this person, as if to remind them that there are these moments that only they've shared together. You were out at dawn with a wetsuit on, that's the picture in my mind. Now the waves still crash on the bonfire ash that the tourists leave behind. Waves of sound, waves of static, through the windows in my room, and the seeds that you planted in a coffee cup that never bloomed. I love those details. At dawn with a wetsuit on, waves crashing on the bonfire ash, sound of the ocean through his windows, seeds that never bloomed in a coffee cup. Very specific images in his head. Then we're back to the chorus, wondering if this person is thinking of memories with Andrew, the way he thinks about them. This bridge is a rare one for Andrew in that it just repeats parts of the chorus with a slightly different melody. Are you home tonight? Then we're getting to the end of the song. We get a third chorus, and interestingly, the outro brings back that alternate melody on Are You Home Tonight? I believe these lyrics are really special to Andrew. It's looking back fondly on memories with someone that he used to know. Maybe he's not trying to return to those specific moments. Maybe he's okay with them ending. But we have these shared memories with people from our past. Do they think about these memories like we do? Are they rewinding their memories to those old black and white photos and videos in their brain like we do from time to time? Or do they even remember? It would definitely be difficult to choose one favorite part of this song. So I'm going to point out two parts that actually give me chills. That opening piano melody, every time I hear it, even if I'm not positive what the song is that I'm listening to, I know it's a sound that I love. And secondly, who could forget that chorus? Are you home tonight? Are you laying in bed watching black and white movies, all alone tonight? Do you ever rewind to the summer you knew me? It's just so emotional. I just feel it in my bones when he sings those lines. You may remember the Canyons version of 4 of the songs off of the first Wilderness album, where Andrew played them in a very intimate and personal way. Stripped down versions. Unfortunately, Black and White Movies was not included in this collection, although I think it would have been really fitting. But fortunately, I found a live version on YouTube that does compare. It's very high quality, studio recording, and it's very intimate as well. I'll include this one in the show notes. In February 2015, about 4 months after Self-Titled was released, in the middle of the promotional tour, Andrew stopped by the Leon Loft for a performance and interview with Acoustic Cafe host Rob Reinhardt. Black and White Movies was one of the 2 songs recorded from this performance. And I have to say, just like the Canyons versions of those other songs, I like this version just as much as the studio version. I know that's an ironic statement based upon what I said earlier about hearing this song live, so let me revise my statement. In the right time and place, actually this song could be great to hear live. But I would prefer to hear it in an intimate setting on piano only, just like you can hear it on this recording. So I think that's the difference. I don't know if it would be as exciting or special if it was played with the full band. Some final thoughts here. Black and White Movies feels like looking back to me. Probably because that's what Andrew was doing when he wrote the song. Amanda from HiddenJams.com says the song has a feeling of nostalgia, almost sad, but like a fond memory of good times from his youth. It's definitely the lyrics, but something about the music makes it sound like it's from a time gone by. They did an excellent job making it feel like something from the past, in addition to writing lyrics that make you think that way as well. The fact that it reminds me of some of those pop rock artists from the 80s that I listened to growing up probably helps too. Whenever I hear Phil Collins, Don Henley, Bruce Hornsby, Tears for Fears, or even The Cars, it takes me straight back to the feeling I had when I was a young kid. What's special about songs like this, though, is that it's written from the perspective of an adult, which was written when I was an adult, but looking back and feeling like you're back in those early days all over again. I'm going to continue my projects with my family videos and old pictures and my family tree, because those are things that I can do to help others document these memories. I've been able to watch people smile, laugh, and even cry watching these old videos. I appreciate Andrew and his fellow songwriters and producers doing what they can do to have the same effect on us. Music is magical in that way. We can listen to these songs and close our eyes and travel back to a place and time. It's pretty special. I believe it's important not to live in the past, but it's okay to visit there from time to time and remember who we were and how we arrived here today. Thank you again for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and rate it any place you can. Don't forget to visit all our social medias at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Something in the Wilderness, and comment or send a message. Or if you'd like to message me directly, email somethinginthewilderness@gmail.com. And if you want a guest on the show and talk about one of your favorite songs, drop me a line. Are you home tonight? Do you ever rewind to the summer you knew me?